Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Midday News on 3FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice Adu. The news is also live on Kasmi 107.1 FM and across the world at 3news.com. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Coalition of Muslim organizations in Ghana reject content of recently passed anti-LGBTQI bill, insisting that the new version of the bill completely shields wealthy financiers and advocacy groups from criminal liability. Also on the program this afternoon, Vice President Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman tours communities affected by recent heavy rains and flooding that wreaked havoc across parts of the Greater Accra region. And much later on the program, Ministry of Health to erect health posts in each of the country's borders and entry points to augment efforts aimed at protecting the country from the looming danger of Ebola crisis. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Now, the Vice President, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, is today touring communities affected by the recent heavy rains and flooding that wreaked havoc across parts of the Greater Accra region. Wednesday's downpour submerged several neighborhoods, displaced residents, destroyed property and disrupted economic activities in many parts of the capital. The floods are also turned deadly, with at least one person reported dead at Nanakrom following the severe weather event. The Vice President's visit is aimed at assessing the extent of damage, interacting with affected residents and emergency response teams, and exploring both immediate relief measures and long-term solutions to Accra's persistent flooding challenges. My colleague Evelyn Tengma is accompanying the Vice President. She joins us live on the phone. Evelyn, what have you observed so far, and really any key issues emerging from the Vice President's assessment of issues? Hello, Evelyn. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you, Beatrice.
Excellent. What can you tell us, the issues emerging from the visit?
Right, so this is the Vice President just arrived here at the Tudu Police Barracks area where the barracks was gutted and other shops were gutted by fire on Wednesday, June 3. She was here with the Interior Minister, Mr. Mohammed Mubarak, and the MP for Local Affairs, Anato Rollins, and the Greater Accra Regional Minister, Linda Okuli. They were all here to see to the situation. And so the Vice President commended the rescue team for helping to douse the fire on that fateful day. And she was asking that they look at the situation and make sure that they enforce the law. That particular building, how many people were supposed to have been living in that barrack, and what were the things that were supposed to be there and they were not there, what caused the fire. So these are some of the things that she's asking the people to make sure that they investigate and then make sure that going forward such incidents do not happen again. And so she also made some donations on behalf of government to the affected people, and so they included some blankets, mattresses, bags of rice, bags of beans, sugar, and boxes of oil. And so basically she has just finished this particular inspection here, and now she's moving towards the understand she'll be going to Adensa new site where the building also collapsed on that same fateful June 3. And so she also looked at the extent of damage over there. And we also understand she'll also be going to Waja, where there were some flooding issues that affected more people over there. So this is what she is going to do today, Beatrice.
What more can you tell us as regards, aside from what you've told us, what we should expect from her?
Say again, please.
I was asking, aside from what you've told us, what else should we expect from the end of the Vice President?
So basically, she is going to the affected communities to have first-hand information on what happened on June 3, and even before that, the village and flooding situation in Waja. So basically, she wants to get first-hand information, and she's just encouraging the people to do the right thing. And because even she interacted with some of the residents here and traders here, Adu and asking them to make sure that they do the right thing so that in future we do not have some of these things occurring. And so basically this is what she just wants to get first-hand information and advise the people and talk to the people.
Indeed, thank you very much, Evelyn Tema. She is my colleague currently with the Vice President touring some affected areas, of course affected by the rains and flooding. In a related development, the latest floods have once again reignited debate over the role of metropolitan, municipal and district assemblies in preventing and managing disasters. As residents count their losses following Wednesday's devastating rains, questions are being raised about enforcement of planning regulations, drainage maintenance, building on waterways and the overall preparedness of local authorities. While some citizens blame the assemblies for failing to prevent illegal development and poor sanitation practices that contribute to flooding, others argue that the challenge goes beyond local government and requires a coordinated national response. Let's really unpack this, and I'm joined by local governance expert, Mr. Amon Kote. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon, B.
From every major flood event tends to generate criticism of local assemblies, and I'm sure you're aware of that. From a governance perspective, how much responsibility should be placed on assemblies for these recurring floods?
Well, when you look at their resource management in terms of human resource and then finance, you appreciate why they cannot handle some of these problems. That is why we established the Ghana Hydrological Authority. So if it's bigger than the Assembly, then Ghana Hydrological Authority must come in. And I am not sure they also have the budget line to handle some of these things. We all know Accra is surrounded by the Chain Mountain, and Accra has almost about 5 water basins. So if the water channel is impeded in any form, there will be flooding. And so if people are building in waterways, yes, who has a building permit and can say he has been issued with a building permit on a waterway? You know, we always quickly blame assemblies, but I want to see 2-3 people who have built on waterways with permit. Because issuance of permit is not done by one person. It's a full committee, or let's say an authority within the assembly that issues building permit. So I don't see why we rush in blaming assemblies for issuance of permit and people are building on. Yes, the people are building on the blind side of the assembly. Because the assembly...
but they're supposed to be monitoring what's going on within the assembly.
Yeah,
so they have to be responsible or be held accountable.
Yeah, it's easier to say that. But look at a building inspector. Let's say a building inspector, I don't know each assembly, how many building inspectors they have there. But they cannot have more than 5 or 10 building inspectors. So if you have an area like East Assembly, that is made up of Domi, Taifa, up to Abokobi, and you are a building inspector, how are you going to see when somebody is building on holidays and then Saturday and Sundays? How are you going to see that? So, yes, I know some of them also, collect some monies and they are influenced by financially to take a blind eye as to what somebody is doing. Yeah, I know. I can appreciate that. But the issue at stake is they go to work Monday to Friday, 8 to 5. So if a developer wants to start building from 5 o'clock, let's say on Friday, and then Saturday, Sunday, the building would have reached a lintel, So we cannot fully blame assembly staff, but the developer and the landowner, whoever sold the land, these 3 people are creating problems for all of us. Besides that, we also have refuse management. which is solely the Assembly's business, actually. So on that note, yes, I can blame the Assembly for not effectively managing waste in the various assemblies in Accra. But even that one, somebody at the top to give directions as to how they can establish waste management department as a full department in the municipalities. But as it stands now, district assemblies don't have waste management department, municipal assemblies don't have waste management department, and we are looking at a municipal authority that has about over 300,000 people under his jurisdiction. And how do you expect the environmental officers to manage such a population generating waste?
What about instances when it's really the Assembly can't do something about it, like enforcing its own planning regulations and development on waterways? I'm sure you heard the recent demolition of some houses on waterways. These could have been prevented. You don't think so?
Well, if the assemblies maybe under pressure, or because we find ourselves in this situation because of the inundated situation of flooding in Accra, so they can use this opportunity to, demolish. But after the rains, we all go to sleep. So everybody goes to sleep. They also go to sleep. And people are building, But we must be up and doing when it comes to illegal structures coming up. If we look at the assembly concept properly, the unit committees are supposed to be the fundamentals or the basics of our structure. But nobody is allowing them to work. But the unit committees, they are staying with the people in the units. So they will know that this guy is putting up a structure illegally. So they can call the police or call some people to stop it. But we don't delegate functions to them. We have a lot of unit committee members who don't even understand why they are unit committee members. And they are also in the system. After every 4 years, we go and vote. Unit committee members are there. Nobody gives them, because their functions are delegated functions. If the assemblies don't delegate the functions to them, how do you expect them to work? So as for the assemblies ineffective, it's about the structure that we have. It's about the structure.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this before you go. What role you expect the central government to play, and of course, immediate measures from local assemblies, from your perspective?
Okay, so let me take you back to the NDC manifesto. It says it is going to implement Act 1961, and that act is going to allow 4 more departments to be added into the current department that we have. So if they are to implement it, some of these things will come up. Because if you generate about 30 or let's say 5 tons of waste a week in a municipality, and we are able to collect only 2 tons, the 3, where will it go? It will go into the drains, and people will be doing open burning and all sorts of things. I mean, we can't manage waste in this situation where we have put a skip somewhere and they say everybody should go and dump refuse in there. What kind of management is this?
We'll have to end it here. Thank you very much. And you heard there Amon Kote. He's a local governance expert. Now, there was chaos on one of Western Region's busiest highways on Friday morning as motorists were left stranded for hours on the Takwa Bogoso Samahu Road. Young men claiming to be hired by the Ghana Highways Authority to lay road strips blocked traffic with no warning or control. Some semblance of order was only restored when a passing police officer stepped in. Irama Smith was at the scene and brought us this report.
I'm currently on the Takwa Bogosu Road near Samaho, here in the Western Region, also closer to the Takwa Insular Municipality, and motorists are very, very angered this morning as a journey which under every circumstance should take just 15 minutes is taking more than an hour because of this blockade by these contractors who have been contracted to do road strips on the road. The motorists are indicating that this could have been done on a Sunday or even in the night. But even as they are going to work, they are spending hours and they are not amused. The contractors tell us that they have been given the contract and they need to finish it right now, because the more they stay here, the more cost is being accrued to them. But that is not making those who commute from Pristia, Bogoso towards Takwa, and then from there, these mining communities over here is a very, very busy route, and so this is not making them happy at all.
From what and a prayer last night, for machine. The traffic, it's about 1 hour and a airport. This is 2 hours from Samaru. The traffic, man, ban you would ready. Or I been a quarter way to make me. I had them time. That's good. This time around. Traffic, this new site never. That's a new site, new station, the entrance, swap a pair, and then maybe one and the Dodge of Far, Bogo Sudan. I boss to come a day.
How many
highway? Oh, must not do almost 1 hour 30 minutes. Yes, they're coming to almost my tongue for the and I'm spend it. Yeah. From new site, about 15 minutes. 15 minutes. And my spending more than it's not almost more than 1 hour 30 minutes because of this speed ramps. For what reason? How many baby? How many baby? You got Obi team. Even Kedere almost a block of one ambulance one about fine. Say ambulance and put their bar or the fine. While we in the night, we in the weekend say Friday, Saturday, Friday evening, Sunday, get this time around. Check. Put your traffic.
Irama Smith brought us that report from the Western region. Now, the Ministry of State for Climate Change and Sustainability has indicated its resolve to implement policies towards climate resilience. Despite Ghana having legislation that supports safe environmental practices, implementation has been a challenge due to a myriad of factors. My colleague Grace Hamwajiman is at an event where the minister has been speaking. She'll be joining us very shortly. And Grace Hamwajiman joins us from this climate change event. Grace, if you can hear me, what challenges really have been identified at this program, first of all?
Yes, Beatrice. So if I had a question, so the minister has been speaking about the challenges hindering Ghana's ability to implement some of these climate resilient policies. Now, he mentions that the first one is finances. You know that Ghana depends heavily to some extent on donor funding. And when these funds come, the donors tell you where and when to put these funds. They indicate to you what projects you should use them for. And so sometimes there might be priority policies or priority actions or initiatives governments must take. But because the donors also indicate or dictate where to put the money, we are not able to put it into the areas that we as a country want to put it to. And that is one of the reasons why we're unable to implement policies or initiatives that are priority in achieving the climate goals that we have set for our country. He also mentioned the obstacle of education or lack of education and advocacy among Ghanaians. The minister says that sometimes because Ghanaians are not carried along what government wants to do, implementation becomes difficult because you might move into a community and government wants to do this. You don't have to go through protocol and red tapeism and all of that, and you're not able to implement those policies to the latter. He also spoke about political interference and lack of political will. People have built around waterways, have built around areas they are not supposed to build. But as soon as a government moves in, as soon as the agency mandated moves in to make sure that this does not happen, there's a human face, there's one big man calling and all of that, saying that this belongs to me and so don't touch and all of that. So these are some of the factors that prevent government from implementing policies that are climate safe. Bearing in mind that we already have the policies, we already have the laws, the implementation is what has become a challenge over the years.
Indeed, and one of the things that keeps coming up is also the attitudes of Ghanaians in various communities. Did that come up and how they intend to deal with it?
Yes, Beatrice, so that goes into the second point I mentioned, attitude of Ghanaians and some people's unwillingness to adapt to new change. So you see that government has provided bins for people to put in refuse, but somebody will just drink water and then throw the sachet away. The use of plastics, we don't dispose them of properly, and people live haphazardly when it comes to cleanliness or environmental safety, and all of that culminates into implementing the policies. You provide a bin for people to put in their refuse or rubbish, and people will just not do it because they will say, "Abano nyeme papa dia," and I'll say, "Adano in the minister's words, abano nyeme papa dia," and so they go ahead and do whatever they do. Elsewhere, when you even want to spit, it is illegal, but here people go to the extent of urinating around, and you don't care about what policies or government stance is. So all of that came into play in discussing what we can do at our level as citizens before it even goes up to the governmental level where the policies are implemented or formulated.
I want you to hold on as we listen to the minister. I'll come back briefly for us to wrap up our conversation.
Right.
An environmental threat. The government of Ghana has taken a bold decision to ban plastics, starting with styrofoam. And we believe that it's already a good start. Probably that being implemented, the government will move forward into another step, banning completely non-degradable plastics.
All right, so going forward into this year's theme, how do we see WASCAL push or support government to ensure that all the research you have translates into real-time implementation?
You know, WASCAL is an intergovernmental organization, so we are here to support various governments. We are currently a membership of 13 countries, and yes, on demand we do support government, but we also translate our research findings into policy briefs. Today's talk, for instance, is basically that, so that we can inform government on what is going on in terms of climate for informed decision.
Now, on what informing governments on what is going on in climate, from the research that you have done, is there an improvement in Ghana's climate situation, or are we seeing a situation that's worsening?
Ghana is one of the countries in the sub-region that has a very robust policy when it comes to environmental and climate issues. Ghana is leading when it comes to negotiations at the COP and other fora. And we believe that, yes, there is hope that in terms of climate change, a lot of actions have to be followed. Finance is key, and the finance must come not only from Ghana, but it also must come from the international development world.
Grace Amwajiman is still on the line with us to wrap up our conversation. Grace, what more should we expect in terms of immediate measures to be implemented?
So going forward, the minister has identified action on 3 levels. The first level being that the Ministry for Climate Change is already in talks with the Ghana Education Service so that in the next curriculum, the topic climate change is no more a topic, but it becomes a subject on its own, so that when it comes to teaching and learning, students, climate change becomes a subject, so that they are taken through environmental safety, climate resilience, flooding, anticipatory actions, and all the basics that the young people need to know. The minister says that if we take it from that educational level or from that basic level, the children or the young people live and grow with it. And so we're looking at having a new generation of people who understand environmental safety and climatic resilience. The other bit is that government is also looking at generating finance from elsewhere apart from donors, internal generation, so that we are able to put these monies in areas where it's priority for us. And then especially around this time when we see flooding and other issues of environmental trauma, we're able to put in these funds to stop these traumas before they even happen to the environment. And then the third angle would be an intensification of advocacy, awareness, and education, and then implementation of the law to the latter without looking at anybody's face or without fear of favor, so that at the end of the day, it serves the national good and not just the interest of a few people at the deterrent of people losing their years of work and toil due to floods and other forms of these environmental traumas.
Thank you very much, Grace Hamwajiman, my colleague, bringing us updates on this climate change event. In a separate development, the Ministry of Health is stepping up efforts to protect Ghana from the threat of Ebola, following outbreaks reported in parts of Africa. As part of these measures, the ministry plans to deploy health posts at all border entry points across the country to strengthen surveillance, screening and response capacity. Deputy Minister for Health, Dr. Grace Adu Dankwa, disclosed this during a working visit to the Aplao border in the Volta region to assess Ghana's preparedness and readiness in relation to Ebola surveillance and response measures. The Deputy Minister expressed satisfaction with the level of vigilance and preparedness demonstrated by health and security personnel at the border. Faisal Abdul Idrisu is our correspondent in that area. He accompanied the delegation as well. He joins us live on the phone. Faisal, what more can you tell us about the Deputy Minister's visit and really key findings?
Beatrice, yesterday the Deputy Minister engaged BOTSEC, that is the Border Security Committee, and to get first-hand information about the preparedness on the border. She also went through the screening process that is done for any regular traveler across the border. We are very much aware of the happenings in Uganda and DRC Congo. Even though the Ebola is not yet in Ghana, the Deputy Minister stressed that the country is preparing itself in readiness for any form of eventuality. And so yesterday, she reminded the officials at the border of the need to tighten security, which she says they are already doing and they are impressed with. The assurance is that the ministry says it is going to support the border security with all the logistics that they need, including having to deploy a health post, which we call the kiosk clinic, which will include everything that is needed to undertake any form of medical service at the border. The minister also stressed the need for the public to be aware of the times in which we are, so that whenever they get to the border, they are able to comply with the procedure and the protocols at the border. The Ghana Health Service equally stressed what is happening at the border and how necessary it is. Let's take a listen to Dr. Grace Adu Dankwa, the Deputy Minister of Health, and also Dr. Frankly Adu Bekwe, both of whom, Bekwe, who is also in charge of public health, that is Director Public Health, Ghana Health Service, both of whom have been speaking.
The number one entry sites into this country. So the more prepared we are at the borders, the better. But it's not just the borders, but it's also the airports as well as our harbors to ensure that people don't come into this country with Ebola. From what I have seen, I'm very impressed because it looks like they are all working together. It is a very cohesive group and they are ready and they have put in all the systems in place to be able to avoid Ebola coming into the country. Now, they have also told us some of the needs that they have, and we have listened, and we will go back and discuss with the minister so that you get all the necessary help and requirements needed to save Ghanaian lives. We are bringing to this border post, Aflao post, what we call a health post. That is what we call a health kiosk. These are health posts that are prefabricated, that has everything inside. It has its own energy system, solar system. It has its own waste disposal system. It has its own water systems. And more importantly, it has telehealth.
And it had the Deputy Minister for Health, Dr. Grace Adu Dankwa. And that's it for the midday news here on 3FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice Adu. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Log on to 3news.com for more news. Good afternoon.
Hello there, good afternoon and welcome to Business Daily on 3FM 92.7. Coming up, finance and tax analyst projects CD to stay below 11 cedis by end of second quarter as forex demand eases.
We are gradually moving away from dividend payment season. The CD is expected to remain below 11 Ghana cedis by the end of the second quarter.
Meanwhile, senior fellow at Africa Policy Lens urges long-term solution to save the cedi.
Last year gave us the opportunity to structure the economy and invest in key sectors rather than continuous injection of over 10 billion to support the cedi.
Plus, government of Ghana seeks 5.442 billion cedis in treasury bill auction today to bounce back from 2-week under subscription streak. I am Michael Obodu. Details of these and many other stories lined up for you. Do stay tuned. Thank you so much for your time, and straight into our top story. And the Ghana cedi is projected to maintain its stability and remain below the 11 cedi mark against the dollar by the end of the second quarter of 2026. And that's according to finance and tax analyst Nelson Kujo Kwagbeji. His forecast comes off the back of IC Insights projecting that pressure on the cedi is expected to persist through June 2026 as elevated energy prices continue to drive high foreign exchange demand. The local currency weakened by 4.6% in May 2026. Speaking on the currency's outlook to 3 Business, Mr. Kwabeji explained that the market is gradually moving away from the season of increased commercial demand for dollars.
We are gradually moving away from dividend payment season. Most multinational companies will actually stop or cease repatriating profit back home. Businesses have also restocked, and so we don't expect those who are into importation to be demanding more dollars to, import into the country, most especially those who are into the business of the consumables. Ghana Stock Exchange is doing very well, and so a lot of investors are having so much confidence in the Ghana Stock Exchange, and so instead of buying their dollars and pull down, they would rather prefer to go and invest within the Ghana Stock Exchange or even the fixed income market. And so most investors will be channeling their investable funds towards the Ghana's financial market rather than buying and holding the dollars. And finally, we have also been told that the Bank of Ghana will be intervening within the market in the month of June to the tune of about $1.2 billion. And this FX intervention mechanism is expected to curtail the depreciation of the Ghana cedi because $1.2 billion is such a significant amount to meet the demands of the market. And so, given the above background, the cedi is expected to remain below 11 Ghana cedis by the end of the second quarter.
That was financial and tax analyst Nelson Kujo Kwagbeji speaking there. Meanwhile, a senior fellow for Africa Policy Lens, Dr. Eric Boakye-Yadom, has reiterated his long-standing position that government of Ghana must prioritize structural economic reforms and strategic investment in key domestic sectors over expensive short-term currency interventions. Reflecting on government's previous strategies, he noted that the state injected over $10 billion to artificially prop up the cedi last year, a strategy he argues is unsustainable and highly draining to public finances.
I have always maintained that last year gave us the opportunity to structure the economy and invest in key sectors rather than propping up or continuous injection of over 10 billion to support the cedi. So if we have to do the same thing again this year, it seems that we'll need about over 10 billion to support the economy. I mean, in terms of the dollar, and which is very expensive. Remember, we were on IMF program for $3 billion. So if government needs to continue the injection, I think that it will take funds from key sectors. It will take attention from key sectors. Now we are now seeing the true state, and it's telling government what to do. That the things that we keep importing, for example, the fuel we keep importing, change so much to BDCs to import this fuel. Government should have, I think, short-term and long-term approach. One of the things that government did last year, which is the injection, was a short-term approach, and it has proven that it will not be successful in the long term.
That was Senior Fellow for Africa Policy Lens, Dr. Beatrice Adu, speaking there. Now, the government of Ghana entered the domestic debt market today, targeting to a total haul of about 5.442 billion cedis through its weekly treasury bill auction. This report has the details.
The borrowing target comes at a critical juncture as government looks to rebound from a disappointing 2-week streak of market undersubscriptions. To raise the 5.442 billion cedis, the Bank of Ghana will offer securities across the 3 standard short-dated tenors, comprising the 91-day, 182-day, and 364-day bills. 3 Business is keeping a close watch on today's auction as it will serve as an essential gauge of investor sentiment. With short-term liquidity management currently anchoring the broader fixed income market, the outcome will reveal whether government needs to adjust its yield offerings upward to attract tighter institutional capital or if investors will naturally step in to plug the recent financing deficits.
And that was a 3 Business News Desk report. Meanwhile, secondary market trading on the Ghana fixed income market ground to a complete standstill on Thursday, June 4, 2026, recording 0 volume and 0 trades across all major asset categories. According to the daily GFIM trading report, the unusual pause affected everything from short-term treasury bills to longer-dated domestic debt exchange program, DDEP bonds, corporate debt, and sell-buy-back transactions. This report has more.
Treasury bills, which typically dominate market liquidity across their 91-day, 182-day, and 364-day tenors, saw an absolute absence of buyer and seller matching during the session. Despite the total lack of transactional turnover, the report still listed indicative end-of-the-day closing data for several instruments. In the sovereign bond space, the new government of Ghana bond maturing in March 2033 closed at a yield of 12.42% with a price of 100.3262, while a restructured DDEP bond maturing in February 2028 registered a closing yield of 11.80% at a price of 92.5799. Short-term paper also held static pricing, with a February 2027 Treasury bill showing a closing yield of 8.62%. Meanwhile, inactive corporate bonds like the Cocoa Marketing Board CMB issue, maturing in August 2027, maintained a closing price of 101.5296. 3 Business views the zero turnover session as a stark reminder of the fragile and uneven liquidity currently characterizing Ghana's financial markets. The total freeze suggests that institutional investors have collectively adopted a cautious wait-and-see posture, likely driven by shifting interest rate expectations, tight banking sector liquidity, or broader macroeconomic uncertainties. While a single day of inactivity does not establish a permanent trend, the blanket freeze highlights the ongoing challenges regulators and market participants face in fostering a deep, resilient secondary market following the country's recent domestic debt restructuring.
And that was a 3 Business News Desk report. And on that note, that's how we end today's edition of Business Daily here on 3FM 92.7. For more stories, please check out our website. It's 3news.com/business. I am Michael Obodu. Thank you for tuning in. As always, please stay safe. Up next is Urban Blend and Black Rasta is on standby. Stay tuned.